This is what I was hoping for. It smells like an armpit, like it's supposed to. Hey guys, welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. It's been a while since I brought you into the kitchen, and it's not because I haven't been in the kitchen a lot lately. I really have. This is the busy time of year where many of us homesteaders and gardeners are preserving the harvest. And I think sometimes that's the easier part. Not that it's really easy, because it is hard work, but putting the food away sometimes is easier than figuring out exactly how to cook it. So I hope that me showing you what I'm making for dinner tonight helps inspire you to take some recipes that you have and maybe adapt them for what you have on hand or for what you grow. So what I'm making tonight is kind of mac and cheese thing. It's something that I used to make before we had a homestead, and we love it. It is so good. Now there are some ingredients in this recipe that I don't have. I don't have any bacon, but I do have ground venison. I don't have cream cheese, but I do have a really close alternative, which is strained clabber cheese. My goal with most meals is to have at least one thing from the farm in each meal, and I try really hard for dinner to make it more than one thing. And this meal happens to have pretty much everything except for some of the spices are from our farm, and that makes us really proud. So you could go about making this recipe in several different ways. However you like to cook the spaghetti squash is perfect. You really could roast this if that was your preference. We actually had somewhere to go earlier, so I knew I was going to be gone the majority of the day, and for me the crock pot is just a lot easier when I have busy days like that. So I grabbed a spaghetti squash from the greenhouse, cut it up, took out the guts, and if it was not the preserving season, not the busy season, I would have kept those seeds and roasted them. You can roast any kind of squash seed like you would roast pumpkin seeds in, around fall time when you're carving pumpkins, but it's too busy for that. I'll worry about that another day. The recipe calls for adding water to the crock pot. Whenever I can, I like to add bone broth. So I put that bone broth in the crock pot with the sliced and pierced spaghetti squash, and I put it on low for about 6 hours. And you'll notice that I have some peas sitting out on the counter. These peas are from our garden from springtime, and I actually freeze dried them. And I noticed when I freeze dried them that they freeze dried to about 1/3 of the size that they normally are when they're fresh. And so I only filled up the jar about this far, filled up the rest with warm water, and this is what we have. So I'm going to drain these out, and we're going to get to actually cooking the rest of the recipe. This is one of the ingredients that I am adding tonight that we did not grow, but we really love it. So I don't know if this is going to be available in a lot of places. We get this at our local Amish farm store. Weaver's Dutch Country Seasoning, the farm dust seasoning. This is so good. It's got, let's see, kosher salt, sea salt, dried onion and garlic, black pepper, fennel, celery, marjoram, thyme, rosemary, savory sage, oregano, and basil. That's it. So in the spirit of using things from our farm, as I mentioned, we are going to be substituting the bacon in the recipe with some ground venison. I have tons of ground venison. The ground meats are some of the harder meats for me to figure out exactly what to do with. And when you grow your own larger meat animals, you get a lot of ground. Obviously, we didn't grow the deer. Some people do grow deer. We grow goat meat here, but Levi hunted the venison. And venison is a very lean meat. So what I'm doing here is digging out a little bit of goat tallow. This is from our goats from last year. And I've got 2 pounds of venison that I'm working with, and I'm just gonna give that a good browning. So I do things a little bit differently than what the recipe calls for. This is was in the refrigerator. I didn't set it out so that it could warm up. So in order to warm up this clabber, which is the replacement for the cream cheese in the recipe, I'm just gonna add it straight in, kind of like cook that down and let it melt in with the venison. Got our lovely spaghetti squash here. It's all done. I'm just gonna take this fork here and fluff it up and then pour everything down into the pot. You can see these beautiful spaghetti squash strands. I love it. It's been so long since we had spaghetti squash. I did turn the heat off at this point. Everything is cooked, and really it's just needing to kind of meld together. And the other half of the squash. So I am gonna add the peas in just a little bit, but one thing that I'm noticing that I would like to change is this is a titch watery for my taste. I would really like this super liquidy part to be a lot more creamy, and that's actually a really easy fix. Can you see here how there's this real wet bit right here? I would love to turn that into a nice creamy sauce. So I am gonna turn the heat back on. I've got this quart jar here. I'm gonna put, let's go with a rounded 1/3 cup of flour. Look, I made a mess. Make a mess or it doesn't count. Counts today. And then we got some of our goat's milk here. We're gonna add that, about a cup's worth. Look at the cream stuck in the cap. Isn't that awesome? I love to get that milk and flour all dissolved together, reduce the likelihood of clumps. Give it a good shake for good measure. Turn you down so you can watch the magic happen. Boiling pretty good here. Got our roux, our mixture. Got it straight in. Turning the heat off. I don't think I need it anymore. There we go. That thickened up very nicely. That is what I'm looking for sure. I've strained our peas and they're ready to get dumped in. Always got to give it a good taste, see if it needs any more seasoning. Hot, a little more seasoning. Sometimes when you add that like flour and milk mixture, it can make like the cream sauce taste a little bit doughy, and usually a little bit more seasoning fixes that right up. So the recipe also calls for Parmesan, and I do make my own cheese out of our goat's milk, but I haven't gotten into making Parmesan. It needs something like 14 months to age, and I've only been cheese making for the summer, so not long enough to have any parm. But I do have this cheese, and this has been a harder type cheese. It's not super elastic, if that makes sense. It's not Parmesan consistency or flavor by any means, but I think it's going to be a pretty good substitute. It's got very good flavor. It's made a lot. That actually grated a lot more than I expected. So everything is done, and we could just put it in bowls and eat it with a fork as is, and it would be super delicious. But peppers are in season right now, and this pepper trick is one of my favorite ways to eat like casserole type dishes this time of year. So what I'm gonna do is just take this pepper from the garden, cut it in half, take the little bundle of seeds there and just pop it right out with the stem, like so. Just like that. Got a nice little vessel for our dinner.
It tastes like the ramen noodles we had one time.
Okay.
That makes sense.
But what I thought they were was squash in little lines.
It is squash in little lines.
I can't taste it. All I taste is the meat and peas and pepper.
Well, thank goodness, because this is the one of mine that doesn't like squash. And there's at least 30 spaghetti squash out there, so.
Hey, Punch, say hi to all the people. Or eat melon. Did she try? She tried to eat that?
I think I like it better without the pepper.
Really? That's funny.
The like cheese creaminess comes through a lot more without the pepper.
Okay. Oh. Chinook. This is what I was hoping for. Look at that. This looks a lot like the Kajari melon that we had with dinner, but it is not. You guys probably noticed that the Kajari melon, when I cut it open, it was green on the inside. This is going to be orange. and it smells correct. So those of you that have been following the channel for probably a little while have heard me talk about the armpit melon. So this melon, the armpit melon, was accidentally grown here on our farm last year. It's a cross between this Kajari melon that we had with dinner and then this Charente melon. This is the first melon that we picked. We were just out there. These guys are orange on the inside. They're a lot like a cantaloupe. This looks a lot like a Kajari on the outside, just a little bit more muted in color. And it's orange on the inside. I'm kind of wondering if this one maybe could have sat a little bit longer. But also, this is an F2 generation. So last year when we first saw this melon on our farm, that was its first generation, F1 generation. And at that point, the genes are not stable. So we saved the seed back from those melons, but it's kind of anybody's guess at that point what exactly is gonna happen in subsequent years. So this looks a little less orange than last year, but it smells the same. Let's see how it tastes. Cheers. That's the armpit melon. I feel like it might taste a little bit different this year. The first year, no, there it is. There is like a very umami type tomatoey savory aftertaste to this melon. So it tastes a lot like a cantaloupe, but a little bit of a Kajari, which kind of tastes like a honeydew, honestly. But then again, there's that tomatoey aftertaste. It's so hard to describe. I feel like it was a little stronger last year. Maybe this could have sat on the plant a little bit longer and gotten a little bit more ripe, but there's actually quite a few plants out there, and each plant could have slight variations, and we can choose the seed from the plant that we like the best this year and carry it on into next year and hopefully have a decently stable plant at some point in the future. Hey babe.
Yeah.
Guess what this is?
Armpit.
Wait for it. Wait for it, it's there.
It smells off.
No,
It tastes good.
it doesn't smell off. It smells like an armpit, like it's supposed to. That's the namesake. What does it smell like? An armpit that someone just put flowery deodorant over?
No, it had like a skunky.
Yeah. Yeah. With a little bit of floral, right?
I don't know. It's obviously not so bad that I won't eat it.
It's good. Do you taste the aftertaste?
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
It's juicy.
Yeah, it's really juicy. Hello. How are you?
Get melon? It's orange.
This one's armpit melon.
Armpit melon. So we can try it?
Mm-hmm.
Put in my armpit. Melon. Don't get off of that. I think Buster wants a snack. Tastes like my armpit. Tastes like the green. The green. Well, the orange on the inside mixed with the green on the inside.
Yeah, it does. Oh. You're all right. Hello. Hello, girls. Oh, that was not nice. That was not nice. Looks like one of these has turned into firewood. For sure. It's a little bit dangerous, baby. We're gonna burn that. Here, get off of that one. That one's dangerous. I get asked about ticks pretty often, and what you just saw is what I see most of the time. I don't usually see them attached to the goats. I just see them crawling along on the outside of the goats or on the goat's hair. There. It's gone. Be nice. You be nice. Me too. Be nice. Gracious. I've kind of wondered recently if some of my bigger girls, like Talia and Calamity and the other La Manchas, if they have started to kind of come into some of their early season heats. They're sort of acting like it. The girls have been a lot more roughhousey lately, so I suppose it's all right timing. It is a little bit early in the season, but also it's been unseasonably cool here, so. I had mentioned while we were making dinner that I don't have any of our own bacon. Hi. And these Kuni pigs, they're not necessarily bacon type pigs, but they do have a date with the butcher October 2nd. So we had originally bought this trio as a breeding trio, and they haven't bred. We've tried a couple different little tricks to try to get them to breed, but they haven't done so, and we've had them a couple years at this point, and so it's time for them to go into the freezer. It's a little bit bittersweet because that's not what I bought them for, but I am excited to have our own pork in the freezer. Look at Christine. Isn't she just gorgeous? Christine was abused in her previous home, and usually when I've got my camera in my hand, she runs from me. It's like she sees it, and maybe she thinks I'm gonna be not nice to her with whatever's in my hand. It's kind of sad, but she's not gonna let me get very close. You're beautiful. Oh, she's trying to show off your shiny coat. Can I show off your shiny coat? They're trying to eat the camera. As they do, huh, girls? Yeah, as they do. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the farm again tonight for dinner and a show. This is pretty much how our evenings look when I have the energy to make dinner. Now, I don't always have the energy to make dinner, but that's what it looks like when I do. And it feels really good to have most of everything on the plate be exactly from right here. So I hope you found that inspiring, even if you just maybe change one little thing about a recipe to incorporate a little bit more of what you grow, you're gonna feel real good about it too.